I feel like if I break down the armor, I'm pretty much telling you how to destroy this thing. Oh dear. Oops. That's how you kill a jumbo too. Hey guys, it's Jim here, and welcome back to War Thunder. And today, we are checking out one of the most hated tanks in War Thunder if you're playing the Soviet faction. This is the M4A3E2, or in layman's terms, the Sherman Jumbo 75. Now let me break it down to you and you'll see why German players don't like this thing. I feel like if I break down the armor, I'm pretty much telling you how to destroy this thing. Oh dear. So first things first, armor. This is a 38mm of armor that is sitting on top of a 63mm. So 101mm right here, almost as thick as the Tiger 1, and not to mention it's actually sloped at almost 45 degrees. So this is pretty much almost equivalent to shooting a Panther's front, except there is a little bit less angle. And you can probably guess, or at this point you probably have played against this thing at least once. If you're in your German tank, you're not getting through this anytime soon. Let me show you. I don't normally rely on this because it's not always 100% accurate. So yeah, if you come across a Tiger 1, yeah, he's not getting through this anytime soon. Especially the fact that people don't play the Sherman Jumbo like this. And why? Because they will be playing like this. So that means, yeah, if you should shoot the front slope, especially for the fact that you accidentally mistake this for a regular Sherman, you're not getting through this anytime soon. So yeah, normally they see this thing, they can't penetrate, they panic, they start just firing this spot hoping that you'll get through. Yeah, that's not happening guys. However, if you come across a Panther 75mm, that Panther 75mm, if you don't angle, is going to chew right through this thing. No problem. So that is something to be careful of when you're playing this thing. Panthers are definitely a threat to you. Keep your angle up and keep moving. And then moving to the other parts, we have 140mm right here, that's slope, so I wouldn't bother shooting this thing. And then 139mm right here, that is very little angle. Now you might be wondering, if this is very little angle that I can definitely punch through, you know, it's only 140mm of armor. Or down here, only 132 in effective thickness, why not shoot this thing? Well, there's this thing called the transmission block. They will just eat your shell. So shooting that is not really ideal. Now thankfully for most people who have trouble facing this thing, Gaijin didn't bother to model in the weak spot, which is the machine gun port right here. If you shoot this thing, you only have at least 30mm to go through. Gun steel plus the little bulbous thing at the back. This is not allowed to go through honestly. And this is usually the weak spot that people often go for, especially when the jumbo is very up close and personal. So what people like to do is they like to put bushes over this thing so it's impossible to see. Thankfully though, in most cases, you can still see the machine gun sticking out of the bush. So yeah, you still have the general idea of where it is. Just that be very careful that this is actually a pretty small window. Because if you're around deviates or you aim a little too far left, too far right, or this thing is moving, you're not getting through this anytime soon. So this is not a very reliable weak spot, but as I say that, it's at least better than nothing. So if that one's weak spot is actually pretty unreliable, does this mean that it's actually overpowered? The answer is, after some time of facing the jumbo, it's really not. And why? Because you see, here is the true weak spot of the jumbo. The side armor. But Jim, it's like 76mm right there. If he angles, I'm not getting through this either. I'm not talking about this, my dude. I'm talking about the lower half of the sides. I don't know why last time I tried to explain people that this is actually the weak spot, but for some reason they say it's not a good spot to hit. Because tracks, suspension system will get in the way, but if I'll be honest, that's not really gonna happen. Because this is actually pretty thin, like 38mm. Even if this thing actually angles, there is a good chance you can actually penetrate this. Like, watch this clip and you'll see what I'm talking about. And I can confidently tell you, that isn't accidental. So yeah, I don't know why people are not considering this spot at all. Like, you can just shoot this, and even when he angles, what you can do is shoot this, the suspension block right here, because for some reason it acts as 0 degrees of armor. So you should be able to go through it. And of course, rear armor where the engine is 38mm. Even though, I don't really recommend relying too much on engine kills unless you really have no choice. Because, you fire at least 3 shells just to destroy the jumbo. Meanwhile, this gun is already pointing at you, putting rounds into your tank. Now, moving on the turret armor. Here is the cinder block of a gun mallet, which is pretty much how I identify this thing to be a jumbo. It's at least around, I really have no idea, like 200mm to 179, 178mm at most. Just be careful that, I don't know why Gaijin decided to make this variable thickness armor, and I already explained so many times before. Variable thickness armor is probably one of the most broken things in this game at the moment. Just because, you move your turret just a little bit here and there as you drive. Instead of shooting, 181mm, you could be shooting something as thick as, 300mm right here. Or 277. Like, yeah. There's no way they're getting through this anytime soon. One thing you can do is that if you're playing the Panther or anything that can pen more than 200mm of armor, is to wait for this thing to point its gun at you. So when that happens, you can just shoot the mallet and you should be able to go through it. Especially in the lower half. Then we move on to the sides. It's 152mm thick, very thick armor. But the good news is that it's actually curved in certain areas, so if you land your shots right, you're looking at only 159 or 152mm of armor. Now moving on, this is the part where it gets a little bit challenging for the jumbo. This is a 75mm M3 cannon. And yes, that is the same gun that we have all the way from 3.3 to 4.0 that being brought up to 5.3. So yeah. And of course, M3 75mm cannon, this is what we will be firing. M61 APC-BC shell, 104mm of penetration at point blank, and 65 grams of explosive mass. So this gun doesn't really like to penetrate most tanks that you come across at 5.3, Tigers, Panthers, Sub-Nice T-34s and IS tanks. But the good news is that if you know what you're doing with the 75mm, I can tell you, which most of the time most players do, you can definitely make this work. So yeah, this may be a versatile gun, but the armor penetration is kind of a struggle to use at 5.3, because at the end of the day, you really need to know what you're doing when you take this thing out. Otherwise, other aspects of the gun, 104 ammunition. I suggest you carry as many as you think you need, not of that 25 or 30 shells only, because for me personally, I'm carrying 40 shells. 40 APC-BC, 20 APC, 5 high explosive and 5 smoke shells. So yeah, this is a lot of shells. So yeah, that's actually a lot of shells I'm actually comfortable about carrying. But the good news is that at least they're all down here, so doesn't matter if you carry less shells, they're all gonna be down here. Reloading rate 5.4 seconds, that's actually kind of fast for 5.3. As well as negative 10 gun depression, which is excellent. And of course, like most American tanks, you have a gun stabilizer. So all in all, does this thing actually belong at 5.3? I say 5.0 is actually good enough, but yeah, we all know how that turned out. Especially for the fact that it's all these big spots like this thing right here, this thing right here. So guys, next time when you see this thing driving towards you, can you do yourself a favor? Now next shot that you load, can you please knock out one of the tracks first, so that it can stop right there? Oh my god. Man, I wish you didn't do that, buddy. Hello. Wait. How did that work? Because for the win, boys. Damn it. Don't scare me like that, dude. You wanna pick the fuck up now? Damn it. Oh, thank you. Am I not dead? Oh no! Oh, you could do that. Hello. Oh, nice of you to join us. This guy goes on you. Clever girl. You're mine, bitch. Buddy, you just had to knock out one of his tracks. Oh yeah, buddy. Oh, that boss is beyond me. Hey, don't mind, I'd like to go back to my ID. Hi. Did not see that coming at all.